my name is Andy Reid, and this is the Alchemicast right here on Alchemical Records, where we focus on musicians from the DMV area and give them a chance to spotlight what they're working on, how they've handled the COVID pandemic, and their upcoming releases, music videos, or gigs as we start to return to a new normal. With me on today's show, I have Jon Tyler Wiley. Without his Virginia choir, but we got him anyways to come and talk about his upcoming release, LP, and soon to be related Strong EP. Now, I am overjoyed to please have on the show Jon Tyler Wiley. In a moment, I think he's either stuck in traffic or slowly joining in. A little bit about him. He is from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and plays in a group that focuses on alternative Americana. It's an independent band, and they've spent the last year writing mainly via email, with some socially distanced gigs, some live stream shows, and they've been trying to build a presence on YouTube. After cutting some teeth in DC with him and his friends, playing clubs with Johnny Artis and other DC acts, and going to different jazz jams in DC and Bethesda, and joining the band Melodime and playing Jam and Java in Vienna, the Hamilton, and so many other places, Jon Tyler Wiley certainly has a musical career to be looked after. And there we go. Hey, Jon, how's it going? Little technical difficulties there.
Sorry about that. I'll take the blame, but hello, how are you?
Yeah, no worries. Glad to have you on the air. Thanks for doing this.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell us about, how you've been handling this pandemic. What's been going on in your life?
Well, I'm handling it about as well as I can as a full-time musician. There was about a year learning curve figuring how to stay busy in the midst of everything. But, I was my hand was forced, so I had to go off the road a year ago. So I've spent a lot of the last year writing, and I teach private lessons, and I work for a program called Music Corps as well, which is a music program for vets based out of Walter Reed up in Bethesda. But a lot of the year has been dedicated to writing music. And now that we're looking at the world reopening a little, little by little, slowly but surely, we're finally going to start to pull the trigger and get to release some of it. So we're really, really excited about that.
Nice. And, all things considered, it sounds like you're pulling through just fine. And something that has happened to the music industry is we've tried to adapt. So understanding that music venues are now playing at a 10% capacity, if that. What are some ways that you've adapted in response to COVID?
We've gone the live stream route, like a lot of people have. We haven't done quite as many of them as a lot of artists have. We've only done a handful, because it's just our case is a little strange because so my band, the Virginia Choir, we announced our presence to the world the last week of February of 2020. And then 2 weeks later, everything shut down. So we had music we were going to release, and we chose not to because we couldn't play the shows to support the record. But because of that, we haven't done a whole lot of the live streaming thing because people don't know these songs. So they don't
know them yet.
Yeah, that's right. But but we've done that. We've, like I said, we spent a lot of time writing, and especially at the beginning of the lockdown, we were writing via email and voice memos made on our iPhones. Like, just, hey, I have this guitar part. What do you think of this? Well, that's cool. I can play this bass part over that. And literally putting those, putting those ideas into GarageBand or Pro Tools and just mailing stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of the lockdown for us, but it's been fruitful, which is nice.
Well, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the band. We have you on the air today, which we're extremely fortunate for, but your Virginia choir is scattered, socially distanced.
Yeah. So we're down in Fredericksburg, Virginia, about an hour south of DC. We're a 5-piece, and kind of the whole thing with this band is it's like the optics of a country band that doesn't play country music. So we got fiddle and piano, and I'm playing, some sort of single coil electric guitar, but it's really far from a Merle Haggard show, So we have Eddie Dickerson on the fiddle, one of my lifelong best friends, Thomas Johnson, on the piano and organ, and then we have a married couple actually, Joanna Smith and Brian Piper Barbary on bass and drums respectively. And the whole thing with this band was just about, if we're going to do this and we're going to, really put the time in to trying to make something great, might as well be with, your buds. And I grew up, for the last 10 years, I've been a musician on the road with other acts. And I had another band with some other friends of mine named Melodime. And when we were off the road and I was back home in Fredericksburg, when I knew other of my friends were going to be off the road, rather than, hey, let's go get a drink, it was, hey, are you going to be off the road this day? Let's book a gig. But because most of my friends, or a lot of them, are musicians. So it just ended up being, hey, let's call this corner bar. Here's a list of 10 songs that I'll sing. You give me a list of 10 songs that you'll sing. And we would just do pickup gigs. Then that would be how we'd hang, and it was fun. We spent probably 6 years doing this irregularly without ever like marketing it or advertising it or putting a name on it. We'd change the name every time we did it, but it was just all about, let's just have fun and hang and, and maybe make a little bit of money so we can each pay our electric bill that month. And we did this for years, and that was how we learned how to play with one another. And then when I got the desire to start another thing, they were the first people I called naturally, because it was just, yeah, of course it has to be them, because we already love each other and we already do it so well. So, yeah.
And it sounds like a true connection that was meant to be. So as some musicians from outside of the DC, Maryland area, what is your connection to the DMV, and what to you does it mean to be a DMV artist?
Oh man, there's just so much here. It's such a cool melting pot. Because growing up, I guess when I was a kid, I didn't realize how lucky I was to be in the area. And then when I got old enough to go into bars and clubs, and I started venturing up north from Fredericksburg and seeing all these cool, back before COVID, there are all these great jams on weeknights in bars in Bethesda. I have the Harp and Fiddle, and then, different places in DC where you could go and just sign your name on a list and meet different musicians.
Yeah, open jams, open mics. That's
yeah,
where that.
Yeah. And it really wasn't, I was trying not to go to open mics as much because I wasn't thinking of myself as a songwriter at the time. I was thinking of myself as a guitar player. So I was interested in like jazz jams, and there's this, like at the aforementioned Harp and Fiddle, the Granger brothers, a bass player named Gary, who's amazing, and his brother Greg, who's amazing in his own right. they had a jam every Tuesday, and I'd go there, and they would be playing jazz and Earth, Wind, and Fire and different R&B stuff, but then different musicians would get up with them, and all of a sudden they'd play Van Halen. Like, it was just all about great live music. And I kind of started going to that, and then found other little bars and clubs that were doing comparable things. And I started to discover this local scene that I didn't know was there. So I'd grown up playing rock shows in church basements in Fredericksburg, and, little dive bars in the area where they put X's on our hands, and like that was it. But I was fairly ignorant to the musical world outside of Fredericksburg, and then I found the jazz in DC, and then after that I found, oh wait, there's all this great country music if I go outside of DC a little bit. And if I go even further, there's like towards Charlottesville and Richmond, there's all these great bluegrass musicians.
Yeah.
And I just kind of dove in head first. Like, I bought a mandolin to start doing bluegrass gigs with these people, and I just lied and I said I knew how to play mandolin, and I didn't know how to play mandolin. But there was, at all these bluegrass jams, there was always a guitar player. So my mentality was, well, I'll figure this out eventually, maybe. And it ended up becoming a second instrument for me. But there's just so much in the area. It's a really, really cool melting pot that I wasn't even aware of until I turned 21.
And so, as someone who cut his teeth outside of the DC area for years, and you certainly are a passionate musician, we're looking to musicians like you to light the way forward as we try to figure out how, as musicians and music supporters, we can support our fellow musicians. In your opinion, what can music venues do to help musicians right now? Because they're struggling just as much as we are.
What can venues do to help musicians? Stay open. I know it's so hard, because especially so many venues are really small businesses, just like me, just like my band. It's just fight the good fight and try and keep kicking as long as you can. Because, what was that?
Oh, I was going to say, do you have any favorite venues around the area that you've played at?
Man, Jam and Java's family at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jam and
Java. The Brindley brothers. Yep.
Yeah, I love it there. And the Hamilton's always really special. I love State Theater in Falls Church is always really special. Man. I loved Gypsy Sally's, rest in peace.
Yeah, I was there. I used to go to those bucket jams all the time.
Yeah.
There and Iota also, right?
Yeah. You know what? I loved Iota. I only went in there a couple times for whatever reason. I didn't have anything against it. Everyone was always super cool there, but for whatever reason, I only ended up going in there a handful of times to see or be in shows. But yeah, my kind of the big ones up north. Just, I love Jam and Java. Jam, and actually,
and that's right in my neck of the woods. Jam and Java is like, that is the kid's first gig. And when you get that first gig, you're like, man, I want everyone to come. And Jam and Java has this perfect image of how to support local music.
Yeah.
They, in fact, have a nonprofit called Music Makes Life Better, which I feel like just proves a point that anyone who comes through the doors, like, you're making life better.
I still feel like that kid whenever I get to play Jam and Java. I'll be there.
Hell yeah.
I'll be there on Friday. So I love it.
So as a musician And as someone from the DMV area, you're doing what you can, and you're obviously passionate about your craft. What do you think music lovers can do to support you in this strange time? They can buy your music, they can go to live streaming events online.
Well, yeah. Well, when we have them, live streaming events, the big thing is just stay plugged in as much as you can, because we are artists everywhere are, because so much of the world is online, because so much of the world can't be in person. I feel like there's like there's just an onslaught of information. All of the artists that you were trying to follow now are all competing for your Facebook feed. You know, they're all competing for your views on Instagram. So just be intentional about following the people you want to support. And yeah, by the time this comes out, we will finally have our first singles out in the world, and I'm so excited about that. And we're gonna have an EP out shortly, and we're gonna have an LP out by the end of the year. So I'm gonna be, running my mouth nonstop just to try and remind people of this, because I'm just so darn proud of what my band and I are doing. So that's the big thing. Just please be be plugged in to the artists that you're into, because it's tough right there. We're competing with everybody right now. So.
And so maybe you can tell us about your recent release, Laura Lee, a single and a video.
Yeah.
March 19th. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
So on March 19th, we're putting out, it's a song called Laura Lee. We're putting out a music video done by our friend Will Webb, professionally known as Lotus Dog 9. If you look him up, and if you look us up, I'm trying to, make Will's name known because he's a genius. We've worked with really two great videographers, him and a guy named Luke Blackburn of Sword Point Productions, and we are very fortunate to have used them. And we've also done some stuff with Crossover TV as well, and I cannot recommend them I cannot recommend them enough. They are just the coolest, and they do such good work. I noticed that was a terrible time to stutter. I cannot recommend them. I cannot recommend them enough. I cannot recommend them enough. Yeah, just it's fine. Cannot recommend them enough. They're the best. Crossover TV rules. But yeah, that's really, we've been doing like performance videos and different music videos for the last year, and now we're finally starting to roll out the originals. Laura Lee's the first one, and then on April 9th, there's going to be another one called Strong with another great video done by Will Webb, Lotus Dog 9. And I'm just so pumped, because this is the music that that the band wrote together. This wasn't the record that I made by myself. This is what we made, the five of us, and I'm so darn proud of it, because
can you tell us a little bit about the songwriting process?
Yeah, because it was done. We started in April of last year, so we really didn't ever. Excuse me. Frog in my throat. We didn't ever want to be in the same room because COVID, because we wanted to do the right thing. Really, that whole process, like Strong was the first one that we did, and I have been noodling around with this guitar hook for weeks, and I sent it to Piper and Joanna, and I said, what would you guys play over that? And they got on GarageBand and came up with an idea and sent it back. And it was that. It was like, what if we do this? Now what if we do this? Now what if we do this? And then after we kind of fleshed the map out, then it was, hey, Thomas, come up with a keys part for this part of the verse. And maybe like if it's Rhodes here and piano on the choruses. And and then with Eddie on the fiddle, it was just, hey, how could the fiddle interpret this melody? And it was all a lot of phone calls and texts. Like Eddie was the only person I think the only person I got together with during that process. And, we just masked up and tried to stay apart. At one point, I brought my computer and my mic and my little Focusrite to input. I brought it outside on my porch, and I was just recording outside. And I live in downtown Fredericksburg, so if a truck would drive by, a take would get ruined, But
that's how you know it's good, right? Is you just have to do it again and be like, it rolled by. It's in the recording. We'll do another take.
Yeah, but it was, we would just laugh because that's all we could do. Because we knew we knew the music had to get made, if for no other reason than our own personal sanity. And so we did it the hard way, and that Strong was the first one we did, and Laura Lee, I think, might have been the fourth or fifth. Actually, Laura Lee came a little bit later, and it was hilarious. They thought it was funny that Laura Lee was. So the song Laura Lee, it's really about cover song singers in bars. And the working title for months of this song was Cover Song Girl. And I kept singing the words Cover Song Girl. And all five of us, myself included, were in agreement that could not work. So it was cringeworthy. And we just started fooling around with names. And Laura Lee is one of the names we came up with. And we're like, oh, cool! Finally, we can give this character a name. But yeah, it's been a really, really kooky, wacky process trying to essentially come up with an album without ever, all the five of us being in one room. But I feel like we've got a nice rhythm now at this point. I'm really proud of some of this material we're working on.
Do you think that maybe you could share a personal anecdote about your writing process? Like where were you when you were writing Laura Lee?
Oh man, that one came to me. Laura Lee came to me in the car. Like I remember specifically, I was listening to Wilco, and I'm blanking on the name of the song, but there's a lyric in a Wilco song where they talked about, somebody else's song. And I'm having a brain fart about what that was in reference to. I just remembered the words "somebody else's song," and it clicked for me. Like, oh, is it like a cover singer? Oh, it could be. And that became like the first part. The first words in the song are "saw you there in the corner singing someone else's song," and when I'm writing, if the melody and the words come to me at the same time, I generally find that as a clue to maybe, pursue that direction, and the first couple verses and the chorus came very, very, very quickly, with the exception of naming the character, which, took a couple months. But yeah, it all came from, I just heard that one line in a Wilco record. And then the second song, I'm 33. I I live in the suburbs of America. I'm pretty darn fortunate, in the vast scheme of things. I don't have a whole lot to complain about. I'm not going to sing the blues. So like, if I'm writing, I want to write about, I make up fictional stories. That's what I love to do. But I just try and come up with works of fiction. And Strong was the first time I ever sat down and was like, I'm going to tell a true story. And so Strong, which will be out April 9th, is actually the story of how it's my wife and I's story. It's how we met and on through our wedding. And so that's a really special one for me because of that reason. I had spent probably 2 years learning how to write fiction and just decided to kind of try something else. so yeah, that's for selfish reasons. I like singing about my wife. I like her.
As you should.
Yeah.
Something I like is the band The Raconteurs. And in French, raconteur means storyteller. So I've always had this image of a musician as like some type of bard or storyteller. And it's all about the stories we tell. Music is just a vehicle for the story itself and to provide something that you can shake your butt to. The idea of a groove is fascinating. What are some of your favorite grooves?
Oh, man. So it's funny because I was just writing about, I probably can't play it for like copyright purposes. I was just about to hit play on my phone. But I did a write-up on, there's a country music magazine or publication, I guess not a magazine, was asking, it's like, what have you been listening to lately? And I felt funny answering it because it was James Brown. It was not, I've been so into James Brown lately, which is probably not what this Americana publication wanted to hear, but he's a giraffe. There's nothing else like him at all. Like nothing is close to James Brown. Like that was coming out in the 60s.
Yep.
And
revolutionary.
It's insane, yeah. So my like warm up song for the day has been Superbad. So I listen to that. Like I'll get up and I'll work out and I'll get in the shower and I'll put on James Brown and I'm just in the shower like, hey! And that's how I am psyching myself up to be productive for the day. It's just the coolest, man. He's just like, you get yourself a James Brown greatest hits record, and man, how can you not smile at any of that music?
Well, you heard it here from Jonathan Wiley, right here on Alchemicast. John, is there anything you want your fans and our listeners to know? Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Man, what do I want them to know? Go listen to James Brown.
Get up off that thing.
Get up off that thing. Just please be on the lookout. Like we have been, I made a record by myself. It's called The Longing. And I made it in 2019. And I'm finally getting to do something with it later this year. And then we've spent all of last year making an EP with my band, and that's all going to be coming out soon. And I'm starting to book some shows and festivals that will hopefully, knock on wood, actually get to happen this year.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited to go out and be a performer again.
Yep. Me too.
I know we all are, man. We all are. It's like, I feel like, are you like me? Like, I feel like I haven't been myself in a minute, is that?
Yeah, the itch, right? That you're craving it, because as musicians, we have stories to tell and we need to be around other people and help them live their lives and encourage growth and encourage that shake buttness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really we should be incredibly thankful for this for the period of time that we are in, with technology, what it is, the fact that we could get onto our computer, that fact that I can do this is amazing. But the fact that we can do that and have it be an outlet for performing is incredible. That being said, it ain't the same.
No.
It's just, there's nothing like hitting that A power chord in the open position and hearing applause. And there's nothing like it. And I just miss every part of it. I miss like how bad like green rooms smell. Like I miss everything. Like,
that's like, that DC funk that people keep talking about.
Yeah, I know. It's just stale beer with a hint of cigarettes and something else, maybe. Like just that's that.
We'll get back soon enough.
I hope so, maybe. But I hope so. But yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
All we can do is hope.
All we can do is hope. Well, thank you so much, Jon, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
For all of our listeners out there, you can check his music out at JonTylerWiley.com. This has been the Alchemicast. My name's Andy Reid. Thank you and good night.
Corner singing somebody else's songs. Black boots and naked fingers just begging us to sing along. And there I am sitting drinking alone. But I've been here too long to go home. Holy sugar sweet, how you drinking on somebody's tab? Take a sip of my bourbon instead. I heard you saying Hank 1, 2, and 3, and no one else here caught on with me. Well, hey, Laurie, won't you give me a glass? Pass the tips in your glass at the end of the boat. She said, if you ever request, well, mister, not so fast, it's gonna cost at least a licking from you. She says I take a short break, then she's leaning on somebody's arm. Sitting pretty bottles drinking while I'm trying to conjure up the charm. Week after week, unlucky line after line. She just shoots me a wink saying, hey, maybe next time. Well, hey, Laurie, won't you give me a glass? Pass the tips in your glass at the end of the boat. She said, you have a request, well, mister, not so fast. It's gonna cost at least a licking from you. And she's a circus, she's in Paris, she's a weekend queen. Me all right, look at the time, it's time she looked at me. Well, I got no songs that I've been itching to hear, but if you buy me a minute, I'd love to buy so fast.